Okay, so this is an interesting topic. We are going to talk about comments made by Hollywood actress and director Elizabeth Banks.
Huh?
She's been in a bunch of movies. She was in she was in the Pitch Perfect movies, I think. She's been in a bunch of stuff. She's also directing. She directed the Charlie's Angels movie that came out several years ago. I think it came out in 2019. It was a reboot. The movie flopped. It
Uh,
made no money. Nobody wanted to see it. It was
uh,
trash. It got panned. And so she is speaking on some of the circumstances surrounding the flop of this movie and some of the issues that she had with the marketing behind it.
mm.
So these are very interesting comments. So we'll go ahead and pull this up real quick. So this says Elizabeth Banks says the media gendered Charlie's Angels and she had to ask for it to be promoted to men. Could we have an ad during baseball? Elizabeth Banks recently told Rolling Stone that the media was behind the gendered agenda of Charlie's Angels, her 2019 action comedy starring Kristen Stewart, Naomi Scott, and Ella Balinska that flopped at the box office. The director told the New York Times last year that she wished the film's marketing had not been presented as just for girls, but now she told Rolling Stone that's the only perspective the media was interested in perpetuating anyway. Quote, so much of the story that the media wanted to tell about Charlie's Angels was that it was some feminist manifesto, Banks said.
Mm.
People kept saying, you're the first female director of Charlie's Angels. And I was like, they've only done a TV show and Mick G's movies. What are you talking about? There's not this long legacy. I just love the franchise. There was not this gendered agenda from me. That was very much laid on top of the work, and it was a little bit of a bummer. It felt like it pigeonholed me and the audience for the movie. To lose control of the narrative like that was a real bummer, Banks added. You realize how the media can frame something regardless of how you framed it. I happen to be a woman who directed a Charlie's Angels movie that happened to star three incredible women. You can't control the media saying you're a lady director and that's special, which it is, but it's not the only thing. Charlie's Angels only grossed 73 million worldwide, a flop for Sony Pictures in 2019. Banks told Variety earlier this year, quote, I took full responsibility for Charlie's Angels. Certainly no one else did. It was all laid on me and I happily accepted because what else am I supposed to do? In her Rolling Stone interview, Banks recalled having to ask for the film to be promoted to men and not just women. I remember having a conversation with someone who was like, you guys are going to have a partnership with Dry Bar, which is like a hair blowing thing, Banks said. And I was like, all right, but could we have an ad during the baseball playoffs? It's the only it's only this one thing. It was interesting to see how the industry sees things that star women. It was a real lesson for me. Banks currently stars in Apple's The Beanie Bubble, now streaming on Apple TV Plus. So the hyper liberal media machine strikes again. Uh, Elizabeth Banks believes that the mainstream media, who obsessed over the idea of this being some kind of feminist movement, is what contributed to the movie's demise overall. And this is coming from the director herself who is saying this, who is a woman. This is not some man. This is not some woman hating misogynistic man saying this. This is the female who directed the movie who is saying this. Although I'm sure that a lot of you crazy feminists and feminist capers out there are probably going to somehow make the argument that she herself is a misogynist now. but interesting stuff. She feels like that feminism stuff railroaded the movie. What say you about her comments and what she had to say?
I'm not buying it. Um, Railroad, no. Preventing it from being a flop, no. Nobody cares about freaking Charlie's Angels. Now hold on. Now, if she did have this thing advertised in the Super Bowl, to hell with baseball playoffs, because ain't nobody watching that either. You could have dropped this in the Super Bowl. You could have had ads running up and down YouTube. Nobody was gonna watch that. And I'm gonna tell you why. Now the little image of those, because I didn't see it, but the image of the Charlie's Angels that I saw, they weren't bad at all. You got to go back and you got to see what Charlie's Angels was all about in the first place. To tie back into our first topic, the 70s or whenever the hell that came out, there wasn't no pocket pornography. You couldn't see supermodel women, pinup girls, live action moving around with barely anything on. You couldn't see that. That wasn't going on every channel like it is now. So that show came out when America was still conservative, and they were showing model-esque women in scantily clad doing dumb stuff to show off how good they look. It was basically Baywatch in the 70s. So I saw the girls that they had advertising as Charlie's Angels now. I'm like, these ain't BBL models. This ain't what the people going Google Gaga for on OnlyFans. So one of the most sleaziest foot fetish men will go, I wouldn't pay to look at her feet. So why in the hell would they have these women up here embarrass themselves because they're not supermodel bad? Even when they made the last one with Cameron Diaz and the other woman, they weren't bad. Cameron Diaz was probably like 52 when they filmed that. So I'm exaggerating, but it's still a situation where it's like, nah, y'all getting it wrong. The formula that worked and hit back in the day was about that. So give people basically Baywatch on ice right now. The streets will go crazy if they had Cardi B as one of the freaking Charlie's Angels. That thing's selling 1.2 billion. You got Cardi B on one hand. You got I don't know, another one of these people, Megan Thee Stallion as another. And whoever, because Nikki don't like those two apparently. So some other girl that can get along with them, and it's a freaking blockbuster. People's brains would explode. People are gonna go watch that. They're not gonna watch these no-name girls with no bodies sitting around, and it's basically strippers. So Charlie's Angels brand is basically strippers. Or what do you call those girls? Playboy models. Swimsuit issue. If they're not of that caliber, nobody's gonna go watch it. So even if you showed that garbage, whatever you came out with in the baseball playoffs, nobody's watching it. You showing women that are OnlyFans eligible that go crazy, those body types that people love now, and they got them parading around wearing barely anything. You don't even need to promote that in a sporting event. Guys are gonna just know about that. So I think she's just way off base. They set her up to fail. Yes, they did, girl. They set you up to fail because they gave you this shitty movie and they made you the director of it. So yeah, you got set up to fail. I'm sorry for you, but don't blame this for not being advertised in the thing. This thing was a failure from jump. This was a bad reboot. So how about you, sir? Do you feel about this? How do you feel about this situation? Do you think that the Charlie's Angels got a raw deal from the woke industry?
So I agree with the spirit of her comments, which is the media is hyper liberal and has a vested interest in spreading hyper liberal ideology. And so whenever it gets the opportunity to do so by latching on to content such as movies and streaming shows in order to continue to spread their gospel, they will readily take advantage of that at any possible turn. And I do think that dynamic does have the potential to stymie the earnings potential of said content.
Mhm.
So I agree with the spirit of her message. However, I don't know whether that applies to this or not because, like, I don't remember what year this came out, but you remember when they tried to do Baywatch with The Rock? I forget the year. I forget the year that I forget the year that this movie came out, but they did. They brought Baywatch back, and it was The Rock who was the star who was the star of the movie. And
Right.
if you juxtapose these two movies, right? Charlie's Angels, mostly women stars, and when it comes to Baywatch, The Rock, who currently I believe is the actor who's highest paid right now in Hollywood. I believe it's him. He's number one, um, and he makes the most money. He's a huge star. The Rock is a huge star. So supposedly, whenever you attach a movie to his name or he's involved, it's supposed to reap dividends because of who he is. And then there are also other supporting cast members in the movie. The point is that movie was led by a man, and the Charlie's Angels movie was led by women. Both of them were flops, and both of them sucked. Both of them were ass. So if you look to related content such as that, such as hers, and do a comparison analysis, it kind of her opinion on the matter kind of falls flat because The Rock is a male star in a movie that was geared towards men because it's Baywatch. So you're gonna have women, as you just described. There was women in that movie with nice bodies, wearing bikinis, frolicking around on the beach, and that movie was ass. It was trash. So that if that was trash and your movie was trash, maybe the movies are just trash. And I didn't think of the angle that you took. That's interesting. I'd have to think about that because even if that were the case, like I said, Baywatch would have been more successful as it than it was because that movie did go that route. It did have women doing that, and it was still garbage. But be that as it may, I think the spirit of what she is saying is true in that the media is hyper liberal and they do try to force the ideology and the rhetoric of hyper liberalism
Mm-hmm.
into the marketing of certain pieces of content. And I think that has a detrimental effect on how much money this content can earn because you're going to alienate a certain percentage of your potential customer base. And I would kick back on one thing, or rather pushback. Would it have made a huge difference? Probably not, because I think the movie was just not good. But if they were advertising this during the Super Bowl, it may have made more money because it is the
Oh
Super
yeah,
Bowl. It's
yeah,
huge.
but not
So yeah,
significant. I don't
no,
think.
no, no. It would not have changed it. It wouldn't have changed the status of it being a flop. It
Right,
wouldn't have.
right,
It wouldn't have, and that was an inevitability because the
right,
quality of the movie itself was not that good.
right,
But this to me is an example of a situation where the message is correct, but it's not necessarily applicable contextually because I did I watched maybe an hour. I think I've seen maybe half of that movie. They put it on cable here or there, and it's just not that good. But
yeah,
that's because to what you've said on this channel many times, a lot of this stuff being put out nowadays is trash. It's microwavable garbage to fuel people's low attention span having desire to sit there and mind-numbingly consume bad content. Just like the Rock's Baywatch movie, it's the same thing. So all you have to do is juxtapose the Charlie's Angels movie to the Baywatch movie, and you'll see the where the rubber meets the road there. Because in that movie, you have people with barely no clothes on or wearing bikinis, women with nice bodies who are wearing bikinis and all of this other stuff. There's a lot of that going on in that movie. And that movie was marketed to a male audience. It stars perhaps the biggest male star in Hollywood, and it was still trash and flop. So make better stuff and you might get better results. And I think it's a convenient way to co-opt the problem of hyperliberalism in the mainstream media, which does exist. It does. But that convenience stops short with me because I just think the movie wasn't that good. So make better stuff and you might get different results.
yeah. And I'm looking at this Baywatch thing. This completely. I don't even remember this point in history. But but even looking at this, right? This looks like they tried to capture Baywatch from when it first came out in the 90s in 2017, because that's when this came out. You can't recapture the horny of society from back then. The only reason why Baywatch worked is because dudes couldn't have they didn't have access to pocket porn. So when they turn on the TV, they see whatever her name is, Anderson, whatever her name is, Jugs just bouncing all over the place, and it's a movie. You can't recapture that horny. There's a new horny now. You gotta bring Baywatch to now. The OnlyFans horny now. I
Yeah,
don't
you got to
know.
put it on. You got to put it on Netflix and make it TVMA.
You
Yeah,
gonna do something. You
yeah,
know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Do what they did in Showgirls back in the day, making NC-17.
yeah, yeah,
And but you gotta, because Charlie's Angels pushed the envelope back then. Baywatch pushed the envelope in the 90s. So you can't recapture a pushed envelope from decades ago. These new envelopes is shitting all over y'all. So y'all trying to rebrand, y'all trying to bring this stuff back. And there's stuff that's miles ahead of this on the ratchet scale that people are just, oh, this is beneath me. So in order for Baywatch to hit with The Rock, they needed those women that are like how they look now. And it needs to be sexy AF. And it's just, oh snap, they putting this in a movie?
no,
I ain't know that.
it needs to be. It needs to be beyond sexy. It needs to be like explicit.
That's what I'm saying.
That's why I'm saying it needs to. It needs to be on Netflix TVMA
It
with the
needs to
rest of
be
those shows where it's basically a porn TV show.
basically softcore porn, basically.
Yeah, yeah,
Because that's
yeah.
that's what Charlie's Angels was to the time back then. That's what
Right.
Baywatch was to the time then. And so for them trying to recapture softcore, boy, you turn on anything right now, it's basically softcore porn. You can open your phone and you try to get on Facebook, the most corporate thing out there, and you're gonna see grandma busting it wide open. So you're gonna see ass shaking all day. So you putting some below the bar ass shaking because you can see something better in your phone. You're not gonna go watch that movie. And so they could sell us garbage wrapped in a nice shiny plastic back then, because the garbage being the plot, the acting, all of that stuff, and people didn't give a damn because they came here for the porn. So these plots right now are trash, garbage, and stuff like that. Where is the shiny wrapped in plastic? I mean, wrapped in gold and shiny and
Yeah.
sparkly. It's not there.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
nobody's gonna go watch this crap. So you could have advertised it. The reason why they didn't put it during the baseball playoffs, because that costs money, and they already know this thing garbage. So they're not gonna invest their money in that. Y'all take this salon thing over here because this don't cost us nothing. Hell, they probably paying us to do it.
Yeah.
So that's why they did her like that. And that's what I'm saying. They saw her, she got set up. I don't know what that was, but you should have directed a Creed. You were in the wrong genre of films that you want to be directing your first thing on, because it looks bad on you. So this is out of her control as the director. But well, maybe, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, the plot is only gonna do what it is. The actors are only gonna do what they're gonna do, and the storyline is what it is. So it's only so hot you can make it as the director. So
But
yeah,
see, the
go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say you're. The more that I think about this, the more that I think that you have the right idea. Like essentially what she did with that movie was, and she wasn't really the first to do this. The ones with Cameron Diaz, they did the same thing. But to your point, when those movies came out, it was a different form of excitability based on the way the culture was back then. Because now it's just straight up. You don't even need Netflix. Like if you have cable, these shows that come on some of these stations like FX and Paramount and all of these, it's just
Yeah.
softcore porn sex scenes in cable TV shows. So
Yes.
you really got to be pushing it in that direction. But the interesting thing about what she says is like she feels some type of way about the fact that the media tried to position this as a feminist manifesto,
Mm-hmm.
but you rebranded Charlie's Angels with your like the style in which she tried to make the movie, she took the sexy out of the movie and made them secret agents whooping ass.
I don't
So
want to see that.
you right. So you turn the movie into that. So it's like what I have a hard time understanding is how it is that you are upset that it was marketed that way when you made the movie that. You turned it from sexy chicks looking good in sexy outfits and they might throw a punch here or there. You turned it into a movie where they're like whooping ass, hand to hand combat, shooting sniper rifles.
I want to see
So
that.
so it's like if you're gonna do this and you know like the cultural construction of the time in which you live, the liberal media is going to pick that up and run with it. You wanted it to break, you yourself are directing the movie purposefully in such a way that you wanted to break out of that mold of it being just about women being sexy. You want them to be out there kicking ass. So you kind of dug your own grave in that regard. If you had kept it on brand with the way that the show used to go back in the 70s, you might have had a different outcome because, it would have resonated with people who can more easily identify with what Charlie's Angels has always been for them. But to new audiences, to your point, newer audiences in 2019, when we're so desensitized to ass and hips and booty and nudity and explicitness, you want to bring a brand that's synonymous with something like that, but
Not show it.
based in the 70s, but then make it about whooping ass. Yeah, you might get a flop on your hands, and
Exactly.
a movie that's otherwise directionless and doesn't make sense.
If you
So I just kind of feel like, yeah, I just kind of feel like she screwed the pooch. If you want to do a movie like that, write something original where it's a
thank
star, where the star is a woman who's whooping ass.
thank
But
you.
you want to, turn a piece of sexy content into something
Right.
with women. Well, stop trying to rebrand shit all the time and mold it into your individual vision. You're so talented. How about you get your team together in a writer's room and write a new story where there's a woman whooping ass? And you might get a different outcome. I think that that's the general takeaway. So the more that you spoke on that, the more it made sense to me that she kind of dug her own grave. But it's convenient of her to co-opt the liberal media with the outcome because the outcome was undesirable.
Yeah.
Because who wants to direct a flop? I get that. So she's not, the spirit of her message, like I said, isn't wrong because this is something that the media actively tries to do. But the approach and the strategy to the movie in and of itself is what dug the movie's grave, not the hyper liberal machine, as valid as that claim may be.
I agree, and that just feel like she's piggybacking off of popular talking points at this point because it's
Yeah,
apparently obvious what's going on in current media and Hollywood and stuff like that, and how these agendas are ruining things. And so I'm pretty sure she was like, "Yeah, my film was part of that heist." It's like, I don't know. Yeah, to a degree, but not enough to change it from, like you said, flop status. Nobody wants to see that. And like you said, just make, if you want to do that, if you want to show women actually kicking ass and not just showing them as sexual objects, create a whole new franchise. Period. Don't adopt pornography and then turn it into an action film. Nobody wants to see that. You know what I'm saying? People gonna show up, you know what I'm saying? Member in hand, ready to stroke one out. Yeah. And they seeing explosions and combat fighting. He's like, whoa, hey, what's
sniper
going
rifles and yeah,
yeah, what's going
stunting.
on
Yeah,
here? What's going on here? Then he pops in his Andrew Tate when he gets in the car. You know. Yeah, man. You know those guys. And so
oh,
you're just those guys need movies too. Give them what they came to say. So yeah, don't adopt the franchise. But that's the thing right now, just ruining franchises.
yeah,
And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. If there's something that you know and love when you was growing up, they're going to take it and bastardize it. Because right now, I I call conspiracy on the non-creativity going on in Hollywood. I think they're really trying to prevent people from being creative. And the way that they're doing it is by doing the same cookie cutter garbage. And so, then you got these people growing up acting like NPCs on TikTok. It's not a coincidence that people are thinking that being a bot is cool. It's not a coincidence. How did we get this far? Nah, man, they've been planting this garbage. Just not thinking. Movies that don't make you think. Man, I love Inception. I love Shutter Island. I love The Matrix, the Terminator movies. I like movies that make you think. And I'm looking for the movies that got something going on in it. But everything's got explosions, sex scenes, and I'm like, okay, well, where's the, what's the other movie with that man in it, Kevin Spacey, that good movie, not a Few Good Gentlemen, Usual Suspects. That's a good.
Oh yeah, classic, absolute
Give me
classic.
a movie.
Yeah,
they're not doing that. And so when you got a whole generation of people who grew up on cookie cutter, they stay in that little outline of the cookie cut. So then when they're the creative geniuses of their generation, they're within the confines of the cookie cut. And it's like, hey, bro, you can think outside. You seem pretty talented. Why are you doing this? Nah, man, it's programming. And I don't think they want creativity no more. All the more reason for them to go to AI bots to write the plots now, because we don't care about we don't care about plots. We just want you to have something on in the background, reprogramming your brain, because you ain't watching it. You just got it on in the background. It's just background stuff.
Yeah.
Or what they saying in the background stuff. Huh?
Yeah, the less creativity you have, the easier to replace that lack of creativity with machines. Because you're not losing much. You're not losing much anyway.
And the end of action heroes, the end of superstars in movies. Why did they do that? This was systematic. They didn't like paying these people all this money. You think they like paying Tom Cruise all this money, Will Smith and all these people all this money? Those days are over. Those guys are still gonna get their checks, but they're not making new ones. They're giving you a whole bunch of rinse and repeat people. Now, who the hell is this guy? Oh, who the hell is this guy? And there's a whole bunch of nothing. And so, so this whole industry, and rightfully so that they're out there boycotting right now, because they're seeing how they're getting replaced right now. And all of that garbage has laid waste. And now we got a generation of people out there that are not creative, that are not writing new plots, that are not making anything substantial, And I'm pretty sure that there are people out there, but the studios ain't picking it up. But nowadays with direct to consumer, I would have already figured some genius would have came out with some online movie that just blew people's brains out, because he just went the creative route and said, to hell with Hollywood. Hopefully there's something else out there like that. Maybe y'all know of it, but the game needs to change and start relying on these studios, because, did we even cover that here? Or is that something else I saw where Hollywood has this criteria now for, basically a checklist to get into their academies or whatever, if you want to get nominated for an award? So you're going to have, diverse cast members. You're going to have this. This goofy ass checklist. So when you got that going on, how creative can you be?
Right.
So I saw this thing with Leonardo DiCaprio, one of my favorite actors, in some westernized movie with some woman, Native American, and now he's siding with the Native American. I don't want to see him in that.
But that's a true story, though.
I don't want to see that.
Movie's a true. Yeah.
I don't want to see him.
At least that's not some kind of. There, I know what you're talking about. I know exactly the movie that you're talking about.
They found a story. They wouldn't have done that before. They found a story that fits the criteria. So it's based off a true story, but Hollywood is giving us more hogwash. That's like a statue of somebody that just make us feel good. So
even the comic book movies are doing it, which bothers me, because I used to just be able to watch my Marvel movies and enjoy a good comic book movie, but now I have to sit there and watch, the Captain America and the Winter Soldier on Disney Plus, and I'm thinking it's going to be an action movie with a new Captain America, and it's really about racism. And it's like, I don't want to watch this. I don't want to watch. Like the whole show was about how America doesn't want a black Captain America. That's what the show was about. It caught me so off guard, bro. When I tell you, I was expecting not that, and the show they just shoehorned this overall message about racism into it. I hated it so much. I really, really hated it. And what made me hate it even more is my knowledge that those people who did that felt like they were doing something good for the world
Exactly.
by putting that in there. That's
Exactly.
what pisses me off about that the most. So now when it comes to my Marvel movies, I have to be prepared for
Yeah.
bullshit like that. Where
Yeah.
now I have to get my social justice message in Captain America.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It is, but that type of environment is what allows a woman like this Elizabeth Banks, to make the claim that she's a victim of the situation when really you just made a bad product. So, like,
Yeah.
is what you're saying true? Sure, in spirit, but in your case individually, I think nobody wanted to see Charlie's Angels kicking ass. Just write something original where a woman is supposed to be kicking ass. There's some show that comes on Paramount right now that stars Zoe Saldana. She plays Gamora in Guardians of the Galaxy. She Colombiana. She's been in a bunch of stuff,
Yeah.
and she's like a CIA chick, and she's whooping ass. Now, I believe that's an original story. I don't think that that's been adapted from anything. But anybody who can fact check me on that, correct me if I'm wrong on that. But it's not this cookie cutter stuff as you put it. So it's two things happening simultaneously. The media machine is doing this, sure, but there's also bad product being put out
Yes.
there. Both
Yes.
of these things are happening at the same time.
Yes.
You can say one is causing the other, but you have the free will to be creative and not make this shit. And if you choose to make it anyway, don't holler about the media because you could have just made something different.
Yeah. I agree 100%. And but the game, the movie game is disgusting. It's kind of like it's kind of like the music industry right now. It's all garbage right now. Like it's really hard to find you something of quality and substance. And whenever you do find something, that's why when people get hollering from the rooftop, hey, go watch whatever. Hey, go watch this. Because and it seems to be uniform. You know how people be feeling about these movies that actually hit or TV shows that actually hit because there's some level of creativity, something going on in there. But when you
Yeah,
got the She-Hulks of the world, or you got these other things where they're doing all of this stuff, and it's like, nah, man, nobody wants this,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
But
I was very
they're gonna keep, huh?
no. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, they're gonna keep feeding us this garbage. So,
Yeah,
yeah, man, it is what it is, bro. I hate it. But as we mentioned, she's got a point, but I don't think it would have saved her movie.
yeah.
She did she in my opinion they did it wrong.
Yeah, I agree. I was disappointed, man. I was disappointed. I was looking forward to I wasn't looking forward to those Disney shows because why take the shit out of the theaters? Now you're forcing me I don't watch TV. So now you're forcing me to have to sit down in front of a TV and stream this shit. Just leave it in the movie theaters. Like, why are you fragmenting my attention by forcing me to watch these damn TV shows?
And they're
But
not
because I'm
good.
a fan of but because I'm a fan of the source material, I said, okay, fine, I'm gonna watch it. And I've just been disappointed with what I have seen. And I just,
Come
whatever.
on,
Whatever.
one more thing, bro. Writers back then were writers. They were, they were writers. This was in comedy. This was in anything. People were writing masterpieces. They were writers. I'm pretty sure all these new people that's in Hollywood got blue hair, doing all that, and they're not writers. They're not writers. And that's why they keep giving us all of this garbage like we want to see it. It's no different than a woke comedian, that's up there just giving woke stuff. And it's like, nobody, why are you berating me? I'm in the audience. You're making me feel guilty for just being alive and a heterosexual male. You know, You calling me cisgender and all this other stuff? Stop calling me these things. But they're gonna pound. They're going, hey, right, hey, take this. And the TV shows are the same way. Message: men are trash. Message: men can't handle this. Their message: racism in America is horrible. These shows are 30 years too late. Everybody already knows this now. Now you want to
Right,
give us shows that's pandering
right,
to this? This we emotionally felt like these TV shows was giving us 30 years ago. 30 years ago, these would have been groundbreaking. Not now. This is very late. And so for them to keep recycling the same thing of, hey, you're a victim in America. Remember that, black man. Hey, black man, you're a victim in America. Nope. No plots that show you not being a victim in America. You're not a victim because you're selling drugs to your community.
hmm
Yeah,
yeah,
and then people go, oh yeah, the latest 50 Cent show came out. I'm going to watch some old brothers sell drugs. So
yeah.
it's just like, hey man, it is what it is, man. Hollywood needs to burn. So hopefully something comes out of this strike. Most likely not.
Yeah, I agree, and that was one of the reasons why I have said that I appreciated Issa Rae's Insecure show,
Mm-hmm.
because even though I'm not in the target market, I didn't think that I was in the target market for that show because I have a penis, and I
Right.
feel like that show was more geared towards like women, specifically women of color, even more specifically black women. It nevertheless was a show that was majority black cast, and it depicted black people just being humans. It just depicted black people who were educated, trying to have successful careers and lives and relationships, and the ups and downs of doing that on a daily basis. And I appreciated that because that's what humans do. And that is not something that is not unique unto black people, because contrary to what everyone in the world may think, black people are not perpetual, constant victims and strugglers the way a lot of these TV shows make it out to be, and these movies. So that was one of the reasons why I always appreciated that show. And it's too bad that there's not enough of that anymore. And it was original too, because she created that stuff and she wrote a lot of those episodes and directed her fair share of them. So I got respect for her for that, even if I think some of the other stuff that she does is dumb.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it needs to burn too. It's too bad because it's just very cringe, and it's why I just watch sports now, even though it has infiltrated sports as well. Unfortunately, it's just ridiculous. But that'll do it for the commentary on tonight's video. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Um, Subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, leave a comment, let us know what you think as always.
Yeah, yeah,
My
yeah.
name is JV Wins. That's Dogon SS. JV Wins on Instagram, JVWINS. Dogon SS on Instagram. But he'll get into his stuff. I don't know why I'm speaking for him.
Hey man.
Uh, Follow Constant Approach is also on the meta page, man. Check it out. Same spelling. Follow it, like it, leave a comment, let us know what you think. Until we crank out the next piece of logical content, we certainly appreciate the support as we rock and roll. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next video.
Yeah, yeah. And the name is Dogon SS. All right. And you can find me on Instagram at Dogon_SS and on YouTube at Dogon SS and Hurricane Dogon. All right. And so, and like I say on every part, guys, all right, don't be too high, don't be too low. Keep it calm, keep it chill, keep it clear, and don't let anybody get you off your pivot. So until the next time, guys, we'll catch y'all on the flip side. Screw, screw.
Yeah. We'll see y'all next time, man. We out of there.
Hey, man.
Watch good content, and don't date the Larsa Pippins. And what's
Yeah.
the other one? And
Lord have mercy.
get off. Stop following Instagram models. Yeah, don't
Yeah.
follow any more Instagram models. Those will be the part words for this video, man. We'll holler at y'all in the next video. Peace.
Hey, go Rattlers. Go
Go Heat,
Rattlers.
baby.
Go Rattlers. Go Heat.